so strange when agents say like, "Well, I don't like myself on video." I'm like, "How long have you been in the business?" They'll be like, "A decade." I'm like, "Cool." And have you sold houses over the last decade? Yes, I have. With that same face?
Yes.
Yes. Cool. Then put it
Get it out there. On the next episode of Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered, we sit down with Marki Lemons Ryhal. She's the Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer, also a well-known keynote speaker at the Six Figure Realtor Workshop. We talked about artificial intelligence because there isn't anybody that we know that knows more about AI than her. We talked about the NAR lawsuits, communication changes that need to occur, talked about the future of residential real estate in her view, and how to do videos successfully. It's going to be an incredible show. Tune in. You talk about it privately. We talk about it publicly. This is the Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered podcast. Welcome again to the Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered podcast. I'm your host, James Dwiggins, along with my co-host, Mr. Keith Robinson, a.k.a. Crazy Uncle Keith.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about Marki Lemons Ryhal, who is the Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer, a well-known keynote speaker at the Six Figure Realtor Workshop, and just how much of a badass she is, by the way.
Dude, she's great.
Yeah.
She is great. We ran the gambit. We covered all sorts of stuff. She dropped a book that I've already ordered, The 80-20 Rule by Perry Marshall. We talked about NAR, of course, because you can't do a podcast nowadays and not talk about the settlement. She talked about some core fundamental business principles that translate really to anything, but especially to residential real estate. The power of video, and as an expert on AI, I mean, she talked about some tools that I had never heard of. She talked about the future of residential real estate and how AI will plug into it. It was a great and fun conversation. Put it in your ears, kids.
Awesome. Marki, we are so excited to have you on the podcast.
Y'all get ready, audience. Get ready.
I mean,
brace yourself. You're about to experience the tornado that is Marki.
That is so. In full disclosure, Marki was a keynote speaker at our annual conference.
And my dance partner
was Keith's dance partner. We'll have to post some footage somewhere. It was awesome. Dancing with the Stars, only
that
better. They actually knew what they were doing. It was great. But genuinely, thank you for being here. We have a lot of guests. Keith and I were excited about all of them, but especially excited about you because you are a lot like us. You don't hold back. You say what you think. And that's what this is all about. So, for people that don't already know you, which I'd be surprised if people don't know who you are, but if they do not, give them a little bit of background on, who you are, your current role, what you're doing, your career path getting here, and then we'll jump into some rapid fire questions.
Well, thank you for having me. I am a proud Chicago 5th generation entrepreneur. My family owns Chicago's second oldest Black restaurant. My grandfather's been inducted into the Barbecue Hall of Fame. My family has sold more pork rib tips than anybody else in the city of Chicago. Yes.
I'm coming to Chicago.
Yeah.
Come on now. Now, I was born and raised an entrepreneur. I've been gainfully self-employed since the tender age of 10 because I asked for one too many pair of designer blue jeans. And my mother put me to work, right? So imagine. I've always been a planner, but in 1999, I went through a bitter lawsuit with my family because I owned the trademark right for limbs. And I was looking for a career path that would allow me to feel like a stay-at-home mom, but earn an above average income and not force me to go back to school because I already had an undergrad and a master's degree in business. I just came up with this a couple of weeks ago because I've never shared it. So I've made money in real estate since 1994. 1994, I was house hacking, lived in a 3-flat building with a garden apartment. And when I came into real estate, I came in as an unlicensed loan originator, because we did not have licensing rules in the state of Illinois. And for 4 years, I took care of my son as a single unwedded mother getting absolutely no child support as a non-licensed loan originator. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people are trying to figure out now how to make money in real estate. And I've made money in real estate 10 years before I ever became a licensed real estate broker. So here I am, now in the education side, I am a chief artificial intelligence officer. I love artificial
that.
intelligence, but I was already in education. So in 1993, I was working for Chicago Public Schools, went back, got a master's degree, started teaching on the collegiate level at the age of 25. So I'm an entrepreneur at the core of my being.
Can you add a word under your shirt that says overachiever, as well?
Yeah, we could add that. You know, a little bit control freak, a little OCD in there. Yes.
Marki, you and I met, and I think about this, we met, I think in 2010. Weren't we on the NAR conference committee together? Were you on that?
We were.
That's where you and I met.
I didn't know that's where we met. Because I was trying to put my finger on it, but we were on the conference committee. I think that is the most fun committee of NAR.
You literally don't do anything except just go and like eat dinners and hang out and pick speakers that were already pre-picked. It's great. So,
oh man, that's like a committee I could even be on.
Oh,
no, it was great.
It was
fun.
It
was great. It was good.
That's where we met.
It was good. That was where we met, actually. It's 2010.
It was right around that time. And then you realize the selection is to always pick somebody who's going to be in the whole city to be the chair, because then they rally the local committee to come. You learn that over time. You don't put it together the first time you serve on it.
I just remember being flown out to Chicago. They put us in a room. They're like, pick some speakers from a list. And by the way, let's go to dinner and have cocktails. I was like, this is great.
I am a fan of giving back.
So, all right. Well, let's do
rapid fire.
Rapid fires. I want to hear your answers to all this stuff.
I can't wait to this.
So, Keith, start us out.
Yes. God, I'm so excited about your answer. I don't even know what you're going to say. If you were a superhero, who would you be and why?
If I was a superhero, who would I be and why? I'm going to be honest with you. My mother was my superhero. My mother was a unwedded teen mother. She was an advocate. She was my number one cheerleader. My mother had a food truck back in 1982. People told her what she couldn't do, and she always defied the odds. And she was a woman in a male-dominated industry, and she made it happen. And so my mother never complained, not once. It was always concentrate on the solutions, not on the problem. And because I had my mother, and one thing that I hope is that my children love me and understand that I advocate for them the way that my mother loved and advocated for me. And I don't know if it takes you to get a little older to understand that, but my mother was it. I mean, I thought that she was the greatest thing since sliced bread and pie. I'm telling you. So I would want to be Hazel Lemons, and I would want my children to love me in the same manner in which I loved my mother.
Yeah.
Great answer.
That was a great answer.
That was a good one right there. I love the fact that she chose, she is your superhero, which is great. All right. So my question is your favorite book, and this can be just recent or in the past year, favorite book you've read or recently, or podcast that you're listening to that you'd want to share with the viewers and listers to.
Well, I want to pull props, even though I know this is a podcast, but right now I am knee deep into 80/20. By Perry Marshall. And the reason is because of all of the changes that are going on in real estate. And we know that 20% of the agents do 80% of the business, right? It might be 90/10. Contingent upon where you're located, it is 90/10, right?
Volume 2, Mr. Marshall, is 90/10, by the way.
But what I'm trying to do as I age is to really focus on what is important. And when we look at 80/20, because now we're doing so much online marketing, it's really about split testing, right? And so not just having this one ad, but having multiple ads to the same audience, so that we reduce our cost and we come up with an ad that's going to resonate with people the most. Right now.
So split testing, A/B testing, you run two different ads, see which resonates the best.
And that would be with every aspect, because guess what? There was a time where only 2% of consumers were coming to the internet as a source of information for real estate. We know today that they're going to use the internet in every single real estate transaction in some capacity, even if it's only underwriting. Yep. But that 90% of the content consumed is going to be from the palm of the hand. So now we get to split test and then further define and reduce our cost. And most agents don't understand I'm trying to get to a return on my investment so that I can invest my money to be financially eligible to retire one day. Like,
Yeah.
let's stop
Sure.
being an entrepreneur for the sake of saying we're an entrepreneur. Let's be an entrepreneur for the purpose of generating profits that allow us to create and leave a legacy.
Yeah, when did profit become a bad word
That's-
in this
yeah,
business?
what
Like
happened?
when did we start to get like embarrassed or shy? Like it's a weird one, right? Like maybe it's the human. Like you got to be such a good humanist to be good at this career path, right? That it makes it harder to want to talk about the money part. But I mean, money's just a tool. But I think that we don't talk enough about freedom, about the how you can take that tool and architect and engineer a life, and that it is okay to want financial independence. And in order to get that, you got to make a lot of money.
And it's okay to be successful. Like somehow
Yeah.
we ended up in this world where successful people like don't show it anymore. I have lots of friends that are successful. I'm their biggest cheerleader. I'm going, that's awesome. That's so great. I'm so proud that you've been able to do that. Like, whereas I've met a lot of people that are like, oh, it's like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah.
No, we used to actually cheer that on. I don't.
So my other superhero would have been
Your
my
thoughts?
grandfather, and let me
Yeah.
tell you why.
Yeah.
My grandfather came from Mississippi with nothing. And if you were to go into a famous Dave's barbecue, there's a picture of Lamb's barbecue because my grandfather believed that he wanted everybody else to be successful. So he would share his trade secrets. He says, Marky, entrepreneurs, they're going to have a hard enough time trying to keep up. Competition is healthy for business. But what I realized he was telling me is that I have to give it away and replace myself consistently in order to continue to move up. And one thing we don't talk about, everybody does talk about gross, but no one talks about net. And at the end of the
Mhm.
day, how many real estate professionals reduce their taxable income, right? And don't even have social security. Like, not that we should rely on
Right.
social
Right.
security benefits, but what I know is whatever the max
Right.
check is, I'm going to get that check. Whatever that max is the day,
Right.
it might only last a month or two, but whatever it is, I'm getting
Yeah.
the max check because I have taxable income. And you got to have some strategies, and I'm not seeing any retirement strategies.
Yeah.
No, that applies even outside of residential real estate. All right, Keith, give us the last one and we'll
All right.
dive in.
Number three. If you could have lunch with one person, current or historical, who would it be?
I'm going to have lunch with Oprah Winfrey. I'm going to have lunch with her for a couple of
Ooh.
reasons. My mother told me, huh?
I know you're going to steal her phone so you get all her
No,
contacts.
my mother
That's what I'd
told
do.
me
That's what I
to
would do.
dream like Oprah dreams. She said, because women, we don't dream big enough. So I want to dream like Oprah dreams. But guess what? I was on the Oprah show before it was the Oprah show.
What?
Yes.
Really?
Back when
When
she
she
was
was
just in
just in
Chicago?
Chicago.
Because that's where she
She did.
started,
I think
right?
it was like
Yeah.
AM Chicago, and it was August of
Mm-hmm.
1984. Before I started high school, I was
Wow.
14, but I was a fast 14-year-old. So I even had a boyfriend, and I could meet him at the
Oh,
show,
Lord.
right? And
If my
yes,
daughter's listening, Marky
just
was just kidding. She did not have a
And
boyfriend at 14.
Uncle
and
James
Uncle
owns
James.
guns, so no.
So
Yes. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sure that
Continue.
Oprah thought that I was just this fast girl destined to fail, and I would love to sit down and have a conversation with her again now that I'm old and grown.
That's a good one.
That is.
That's a good one.
Answers.
That's a good one. That's you've had two original comments and I love it. I think
What do you think that lunch
Huh?
would be like? Like, what do you think that
I
lunch would
think
be
that
like?
I would want to, because I think that sometimes Oprah judges people. And what I'm seeing is that a lot of people judge children, and it is the worst thing that you can possibly do. I think that there needs to be some
Yeah.
form of support, right? And it's okay to be uniquely you and different. It does not always define what your future is going to look like.
Oh, for
And
sure.
yeah,
Well, and
Yeah.
being labeled and trajectoried at 14
it
is
is.
crazy, right? I'm dyslexic, and I was born in 1971, so I'm old or old adjacent anyway. And back when I was a kid, there weren't like learning disabilities, right? That didn't exist. You were either smart or not smart. And so I ended up in the not smart track and was bored all the time and hated school because I wasn't not smart. I just had dyslexia and didn't read very well, couldn't spell at all. And math was always a problem because I'd flip numbers around. And you end up on that track and you kind of get slotted in there, and it's hard to get out of that space. And so I couldn't agree more that we presuppose and then leave that label there for a long time, and it can be hard to break out of that. So that's a great point.
Yep.
That is a great point.
That's thank you for the comments too, because I have a 3-year-old and trying to change. My wife and I are very intentional about breaking the cycles, what we call it, of just how things happen with our parents and us and their parents and them, and being very intentional about that. And it's hard, by the way, but it's a good thing that it's a good comment to remind us, especially as a parent with a 3-year-old that's 43, Marki. Like, I don't, COVID,
Woo.
gosh, I tell you. All right.
Wait till you're 53 with a 13-year-old. Trust me, it's hard.
Yeah, I know, but I'm gonna be like 60 when she's turning 18, buddy. So like, it's gonna be weird, you know.
Yeah, I'm just a couple chapters
Look,
ahead
I
of you in the
have
book.
both. So I have a 27-year-old and a will be 17 in 48 hours. And let me tell you, the 10-year age difference is more than 10 years. And
it's like
and
a generation.
Austin was developmentally delayed. He had a speech pathologist, and I'm seeing it with my own 2 eyes. This child is a 4.4 GPA student now, and he spent the summer at Harvard, right? But that was not him at 3. And my husband said, "You're putting my baby on the short bus." I said, "No, I'm not putting him on the short bus. I'm getting him off the short bus, and I'm going to give him all the resources he needs to be the most equipped child regardless." And he just kind of grew out of it. Like, I don't know how.
Yeah.
I was praying heavy. I just need you to know that.
Yeah.
I was praying heavy. And here we are. And he is, watching him grow up showed me that anything was possible, because I saw him essentially morph into a new being.
3 years in, I've learned kids are very resilient. My gosh, they just will blow your mind every day. Like, you think you've got it figured out, and
good luck.
As
soon as you do, they change anyway.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's dive into a lot of the talking points of the world today.
Keep on the other stuff. That's much more
I know it's more fun, but like we have to cover some of these things. And
this
look, we've got Marki on here, and there is very few people I know that are as knowledgeable about artificial intelligence as you. We'll get to that. Let's start with getting it out of the way, because you're very involved in the industry. You're very involved in NER. You're an advocate. You've got a big voice. So let's talk about the settlement. And I don't know where I'm going to take it, except let's just start with give us your thoughts and what are you telling people, and we'll just start there.
When it comes to the settlement, let me go back. 10 years ago, Adorna Carroll in her SRS course taught me then that one day the likelihood would come where we would not see cooperating compensation per the MLS. So for the past decade, that has been in the back of my mind. In 1999, I started teaching because I'm an ABR. I'm an ABR instructor. I've been inducted into the ABR Hall of Fame. That this might, when the lawsuits initially hit, that we needed to be prepared for what happened, I guess, 11 days ago. So I've always believed I like to be proactive and not reactive. And so
smart.
I'm not shocked. I am shocked because I'm not in agreement with it. I'm not in agreement with the fact that they won this, settlement. I'm still baffled because I'm still reading licensed law books, and it told us what not to do. And the reason I'm shocked is because we're independent contractors, we're self-employed, and we happen to be a member of a trade organization, right? Now, being a member of that trade organization, contingent upon where you're located, stipulates, because in the state of, not even in the state, but in the city of Atlanta, right? All realtors are not members of, everybody doesn't have to be a realtor. In the city of Chicago, you want MLS access, you got to be a realtor member. So I'm a little bit baffled that we did not win the lawsuit. I'm clear on why we settled the lawsuit, okay? Moving forward, and this is what I've been doing, I'm concentrating on solutions, not on the problem. I was making money from real estate well before I was licensed, okay? And people are still going to make money from real estate and putting real estate transactions together. With that being said, I believe that commercial real estate practitioners do not traditionally see cooperating compensation. How do we start structuring deals with letters of intent, which we should have done in the first place? Also, no one's talking about the fact that we're among the top 10 jobs for homicide in this country because we're the only group of people who meet complete strangers at a property and lock ourselves on the same side of the door. Police officers don't do it. Firemen don't do it. Why do we do it? So I'm thinking from this will make us safer because we won't go meet complete strangers unless we know who they are, unless we have proof that they can financially close this deal. The next thing, the National Association of Realtors has a program called an EAH, an Employee Assisted Housing Program, where a realtor with a nonprofit housing counseling agency and a lender can go into any company and set up down payment assistance and closing cost programs for said employees. Because if a person owns a house, right, studies have shown that they tend to make better employees. So to me, it's about how do we concentrate on the solutions now that we understand, and the settlement hasn't been signed off on, but what the proposed settlement is going to be, so that we're prepared to operate business and be compensated if we provide value. That's kind of like my take on it. But here's what's funny. So my son, he's 27, second generation realtor. Skylar gets a signed buyer representation agreement with an offer of compensation on every single deal because he provides value. He's Chicago's down payment grant king. Now he's 27, right? But he claimed the name, okay? So he owns the name, right? And so what's going to be our unique selling proposition? And how do we demonstrate our value to operate in a world with no cooperating compensation per the MLS? And I'm realizing that these rules don't impact everyone at the same rate because there are some states that their license law already mandated this. So those states, they don't have a problem. They're looking at the rest of the country like, what's wrong with you? Commercial agents.
I was just on this morning on doing a presentation for a real estate company, and they are in Atlanta, ironically, and they have a mandatory buyer rep agreement at first meaningful conversation, which basically means when you first meet with the client, and it's been state law for forever. So they were like, yeah, this isn't meaning for us from that perspective. They're also, their MLS isn't governed by NAR either. So technically they're not part of the settlement arrangement. I think they'll probably join some of those rules because the DOJ will come after them anyway. But
I was in Texas last week meeting with a group of real estate professionals there. And they're like, yeah, we had the buyer broker, buyer rep agreement forever. Like, talk to us about the clear cooperation policy. But when it came to the rep piece, they were like, yeah, we got this. This is fine. So I think it helps to know that there are many states in this country where, like, I'm in California, everyone here is freaking out because we have not, it's been available, but it hasn't been used
by anyone.
So everyone, not everyone. I know if you're listening, there's a couple of you. Don't get at me on social media.
99% of you were not using buyer
I know
rep
there's
agreements.
A couple of you, fine. But a vast majority of the real estate professionals in California have not used a buyer representation agreement. And so they are losing their minds. And I'm like, hey, everyone in North Carolina, bunch of people, everyone in Texas, sounds like a bunch of people in Atlanta have already run the 4-minute mile and no one's heart exploded. And they're still transacting real estate every single day. Woosah, relax. You're going to be okay.
It's actually, Keith, a positive because the buyer rep agreement being mandated for everybody, as long as you're a member of the MLS, is actually a good thing because it doesn't mean that one person's saying you have to sign it and the other agent says you don't. Like it's now mandated. Everybody's standardized. So there shouldn't be anybody freaking out. I made a comment today as well that I saw everybody kind of staring off into space going, that actually made sense. I go, the only thing that changed out of this agreement this was in Atlanta, to be clear. The only thing that changed for all of you was that you just can't put an offer of compensation in the MLS. The end.
That's it. That's all.
That's literally the only difference.
That's it.
That was
but
it.
Get this.
It's not even impacting you yet, but like that's it. You can still talk to a seller. You can still have them offer compensation. All of it. You can literally have the buyer's agent just pick up the phone, which they should be doing more of anyway, and just call you and ask like, hey, I mean, this isn't like, who said woosah? Somebody said woosah. Like, calm down for a second.
Yeah, change is hard, and literally the chemicals in our brain change when we're faced with change, and we're resistant to it for a whole lot of reasons. And there's been a bunch of changes in residential real estate over the decades, and yet it still persists, and yet we still exist. And the human we spent more time around campfires than we have around computer screens, and we still lean on another human being for big important decisions. And I'm excited about talking about technology and how that could change and influence and make it different. But it's all, in my opinion, and I'm curious yours when we get there, it's all to the empowerment of two humans leaning on each other to get through a hard process, a stressful process.
Yeah.
I have a question related to what he just said. Do you think that part of this is everyone's seen all the negative headlines, and I'm going to state this, just my own opinion. I don't think our comms as an industry has been very good the past 11 days. I don't think we've done anywhere near a good enough job of having people for the industry on talk shows and on the news, and we have not had a good PR campaign out there actually for all of this, candidly. Do you think that's where a lot of the fear is coming from, is because the headlines, our own industry is seeing these headlines and it's like psychologically freaking them out?
Most
as well?
Definitely. And also the private non-managed Facebook group. So I'm telling people, exit the private non-managed Facebook groups. That's not your managing broker of record,
get out of
right?
there.
Those might not even be the rules and regulations where you practice real estate. And even to the point, on the Today Show, and I said her name is Vicky, whatever her name is, she actually took down her second video. We came at her so hard because, one, everybody is plastering a number on every channel, which is not true. We don't have a set standard normal commission rate. Everybody has the right to negotiate that. I believe that not only should our communications department, nationally, state, and local, we should have had those seasoned professionals, those that have had media training, to be on every single talk show. I don't know why they're allowing people who have no idea about being a realtor. So the Today Show, they had two single-sided sheets of paper notes, and they talked to two people. Well, first of all, we have 50 different set of license rules and regulations. We got the code of ethics. We got 1,100 plus realtor associations. We have over 500 MLSs. Did you even look at the MLS policy handbook, right? Because that's a whole document by itself. And I'm like, two people, if we go and look at statistics, that's a piss poor pool in which to look at your numbers, right? I just think that the media has done a poor job. It's as if the attorneys for the opposing side, they've painted the narrative for us, we should have painted the narrative for ourselves.
Yeah, they're playing in the mud. We're not. And the reality is sometimes you got to get in the mud and play a little bit. That's what attorneys do. This has been a money grab from day one. So,
but it's not even the mud, really. It's just I care less about us clapping back. Like Jay-Z doesn't answer battle raps, right? I care less about us clapping back at what the attorneys say. I care much more that we aren't clearly communicating and articulating our side of the story.
Yeah.
Right. We don't have to answer their side of the story, but we aren't even presenting our side of the story.
Yeah.
Let's really talk about what we do as an industry and how we serve and what is important to us. And that, commissions have always been negotiable, right? Like, we aren't, that message just isn't getting out there, or when it is, it's not in a,
we're just not being heard.
It's not resonating. Just not in a way that is palatable, right?
Yeah.
Like we
have to get the facts out there. I mean, yesterday I was on a pod, Marki, and this gentleman was saying that the commissions haven't been negotiable and they've been 6%. I was like, okay, stop. Like, first of all, do you know when the last time commissions on a national average were above 6%? I was asking rhetorically because I know he didn't know. It was 1991. Do you know what the average national commission rate was in 2020 when most of these lawsuits were filed? He was like, no, it was 4.94. Do you know what the word average means? It's the
He
average.
did know that one. He probably knew that one.
It was lower than 4.94 and higher than 4.94, but the average was actually under 5. And so it was just like, and people are kind of like, because we're not getting the information out. This information, by the way, if you searched national average commission rate on Google, it will pop up as the first result from a company called Real Trends that has been tracking that data since 1991. Why does Real Trends have it? Because they've done almost every M&A deal in the United States of real estate brokerages since 1991. So like there, and this is the part that drives me nuts. The media could very easily look this up. It's not hard to look up. You just can Google it. And then if you wanted to call Steve Murray, who's like the perfect person to talk to about this stuff, he'd give it to you. So there's such a bias going on, and our comms has got to start. We have got to mobilize 1.5 million people to get the truth out. And we just haven't done that. It's so frustrating.
For me, being an entrepreneur, right, being gainfully self-employed, I just decided that I was going to talk about it because at this point, I'm not starting over. I'm not going to look for a real job, as people would like to say. I'm staying right here, and it is my responsibility to verbally, in writing, via video, protect our industry and tell our truth. And as I tell people, I'm not coming up with my own set of rules and regulations. I'm going to the source, and I am articulating the source via my own platform because I don't see them doing that. And it's sad, but it is what it is at this point. Because we're all self-employed, then we have to say something. We have to articulate our value.
Mark, you have a platform which is brilliant and beautiful and connects with a lot of people. If I were an agent who maybe doesn't feel like I have a platform, I've got 300 followers in wherever, Missouri, where I live. How would you recommend that I communicate about this, or like try to get, like, if someone's listening to you right now and they're like, damn, she's right, I got to get this message out there, but like, I'm not Marki, right? I'm just me with my 300 Facebook friends in my local town. What would you recommend?
I would recommend that they do a live stream and video, and here's why. My son, with 2,500 followers over on Instagram, had a video that was viewed 225,000 times. So if it's of value, and I would leverage artificial intelligence to help me write a script, right?
Here we go.
And the reason is,
somebody mark the clock.
I use an acronym called WIIFT. What's in it for them? We have to let consumers know the value of the realtor or licensed real estate professional to them. What does it mean to them? And so I would do a live video, because if it is worthy, it is going to spill out into the feed, and everyone will have the opportunity to see it, regardless to how many followers or friends that you have on that platform.
Right.
So we have to leverage video, because video is the most preferred consumable form of content that we can repurpose and extract all of that audio for the purpose of a podcast, for the purpose of audio to text transcription, for your emails, your blog post, your article. So I'm encouraging everyone to create video content, but do some research first. Do not rely on your own understanding. So, right, do not do that. Do some research first.
Don't wing it
before you decide that you want to verbally articulate this. So, because people will screenshot your lies, okay? So,
And also, just to comment to that, like, you also need to learn to not care that there's going to be what Keith and I like to call keyboard warriors, who will say a bunch of stuff online that they would never say to your face because it'd get knocked out, especially in Keith's version of that world. But the truth is, like, you also have to have some thick skin, right? You got to be able to post things and know that you're going to have people that have lots of opinions and they don't really matter. Like, you just move on and just keep posting content. Because if you get stuck in the comments, you'll never do anything ever again.
What's funny too is I've found that the more comfortable I get with myself as a person, the less it impacts me when someone slides in the comments with something stupid, right? Like I sent out a video, whatever, and someone said, did you ever consider spending less time making stupid videos and more time running your company? And right, I was like, well, first of all, slide through and say that on my porch, see what happens. But then I was like, okay, relax, trial by combat guy, relax. And then it was funny because my response, I responded to the comment, which I normally do not. I just let it ride. But I was like, sometimes with some laughy emojis, right? Because it was like kind of funny. Like, no, sometimes I do think like, why in the hell am I doing all this short form content, right? And his response was cheers. And it went from this like potentially troll thing to just a funny moment that, because I'm in control of my reaction to things.
Yeah.
You don't dictate how I respond. I dictate how I respond. And if I let you control my reactions, then I lose.
They win.
But
right.
Yeah. So like you can say whatever you want, right? Like I'm gonna have fun with it and I'm gonna laugh. You might not, but I'm gonna have a good time because it's my social media feed,
Most
right?
definitely.
So the more that you do it, the more confident you get at it, the less that stuff impacts you.
One of the other comments to keep in mind, and then I want to dive into AI because we've got an AI expert here, is that also, because the video thing is so important, is stop worrying about what you look like. I just try to keep telling people, like, I'm tall and anorexic. At least I look that way to everybody.
No.
So like, whatever, I can't change who I am. So, and the reality is, like, who gives a shit? They're going to meet me in person. They're going to see what I look like. So just get over that, because
it's so strange when agents say like, well, I don't like myself on video. I'm like, how long have you been in the business? They'll be like, a decade. I'm like, cool. And have you sold houses over the last decade? Yes, I have. With that same face? Yes. Cool. Then put it on.
Get it out there.
Do not care how you look. They want you to solve their buying and selling problems. That's they don't care. Solve their problems.
That's right.
All right. So
let's go to AI.
Yes.
Let's go to AI. Talk to us about what is, you've said multiple times AI isn't going to replace you, but it's going to be, you need to be an AI enabled agent, I believe is what I've heard you say multiple times. Go deep on that. What does that mean for brokerages and agents? What do you think what AI should they be using now? What does it look like in the future? Do we have robots? I'm kidding on that last part, but
I'm not.
I mean, Keith's not. But like, give us your take on all of this. What should people be thinking about right now with artificial intelligence, and name some programs you think they should use?
Well, if I was thinking about it right now, I'm going to go back to the sales, because this is a sales and marketing position. And I often tell people, secret agents don't get found and closed mouths don't get fed. It is our responsibility to market our services. And I'm not hiring anyone to do any work for me. One, that can't demonstrate their value, but two, who do not market themselves. So I'm going to hire you to market my property. When you don't market yourself, what does that look like, right? So with that being said, leveraging artificial intelligence means, one, training it on our voice paragraph, your voice, your style, your tone, where you don't have any plagiarism and or AI detected content, because if you do, your content isn't going to rank anyway, right? And so we can train it in our voice paragraph. But there's a tool called Humantic.ai. Humantic.ai allows me to know the disc personality of a person based on their Twitter account, emails they've sent me, and or their LinkedIn profile. Why is this important? Right? Yeah.
Really?
Humantic.ai. So I'm going back to a stint that I did in pharmaceutical sales, right? And in pharmaceutical sales, I was told I needed to be like a chameleon, right? When I showed up at the doctor's office, the doctor did not have to pivot their personality to me. I had to pivot my personality to them. So if I know your disc, instead of me having one generic message in my customer relationship management system, I have multiple variations and I tag people based on their disc. And artificial intelligence helps me to basically paraphrase said message to the disc personality or combination, which then should be able to increase, just those changes should be able to increase my sales by up to 15%. So I want to tailor this as a customer relationship management system where I'm communicating to you and your preferred communication style. I see people every single day reach out to me and they do not talk to me in my preferred communication style, which generally means they're not going to get what they want. So if they send me these long, rambling messages, because I'm a high D, right? One, I'm pushing them. I already know who sends those messages. They're going to the end of the day because it takes too much time for me to sit down to try to dissect all the nonsense to get to what they really want.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So if they really want me, if they would have just hit me with the ask, right, and then support it, but not this. Don't butter me up. Because if you buttering me up, you're not going to get what you want. Just come straight with it. Boom, boom, right? So we can leverage artificial intelligence in that way. According to Goldman Sachs, over 300 million jobs will be impacted as a result. Now, here's what was interesting. I was on a call with Crew Chicago. They're in the commercial industry. And there's a couple of buildings downtown Chicago that understand that the people who live in their building are in the financial sector. The person who owns the building understands that in the next 10 years, they're going to have a vacancy issue because of the people who live in that property. So they said, well, Marki, what do you think we should do? I said, well, you need to start training the people. You have a rec room, bring in an AI expert. If you already know that the financial industry is going to replace their occupation, I need to start training these people. Here's the problem. ChatGPT, out of all their users, only 15% are American. The number one age bracket using AI, 65% are under the age of 34. Humongous problem, right? When the average age of a realtor toggles between 53 and 56, contingent upon the year. 60% are men, 40% are women. But what we do know is that the people who are using it in the US tend to have a higher level of education and tend to earn more money. So to me, if I understand that a person can afford a house based on their annual household income, right? And I know that there's a group of people using it who are more educated and earn more money, I want to use the tool that they're using in order to increase my earning capacity. So we have a utilization issue where everybody out, 85% of the people out of the US will be more productive than us. I'm hearing outsourcing in my mind, right? I'm hearing the next generation will be telling us what to do. That's like my 27-year-old son telling me what to do.
I feel like that's happens
it
at
does.
3
It starts
well.
relatively early.
It does.
I'm fighting all of this. I want to be more
Yeah.
productive. I want to cater to my clients' needs in real time. And these tools are cost effective. And if we know that only 15% of Americans are using ChatGPT, what percentage in our industry is using it and using it consistently, which now empowers people outside of the US and the next generation, for all of us mid-aged people, for them to come and take our business or be more productive at our business.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that people are in one of two camps too often. They either dismiss it like, this is silly, this doesn't work, right? And it's not that it doesn't work, it's just early, right? It's very early, and I remember the best analogy I have. I'm old enough. I remember when to download a photo on the internet took overnight, right? Like you would start the download before you went to bed, and then you'd wake up and see the photo, right? And you were super mad if something happened overnight and it didn't finish the download, right? That's how long it used to take. Now we're watching videos, right? So it's not that it's dumb, it's just early. Or they think it's Skynet and it's going to be the end of the world and the AI is going to take over. What about the fact that it could be in the middle, right? Like, what if it does develop, like, even just, I was looking at
healthcare,
chatting this Humantic AI thing, like, the ability to modify your communication, not be fake, right? But just modify it so that the receiver is getting communicated with in the way that they prefer. Same email, just delivered in a different way, is brilliant. Like it's more effective communication, and that's the key to our business.
Do you think like an AI is going to be something that everybody uses as like a personal assistant?
I think it can be, but I don't think it's going to be our generation. I think it's going to be the person under the age of 34, the generation of people who have never lived without technology. And what I think is interesting to me about real estate is the fact that this is generally, for the mass majority, the second or third occupation. I'm realizing that a lot of people come in once they've retired or that second or third job. If their previous occupation did not provide them with any technology training, they're going to have an issue because every single tool we use has a technology component to it. Even think about direct mail, right? Some of us do direct mail online, right? We not licking a stamp, right? We're going to an online portal. We don't know what technology they're using, but we know that they deliver it, and hopefully we put ourselves in that mail and sample. And so if they don't have any technology training, they're going to have an issue because every aspect of real estate today, to me, if we go back to that 80-20 and split testing, the only way I'm going to get to those great numbers is because I'm using the internet. The internet allows me to do the A/B, the split testing, which postcard did they call the most off of, because they know the difference between A postcard and B postcard and the zip code they sent it to. I'm going to make an assumption because of Bing, Microsoft, Apple, Ford, GM, Zoom, Canva, all have AI, that we've been AI'd for a decade.
Yeah.
Well, technically, you've had it in your mapping software on your phone for as long as that's literally, it's reading where you are, tracking data, looking at traffic patterns to determine when your updated location and time is going to be. That's not.
Well, and to use the mapping analogy, it's gotten to the point that like my phone knows on Tuesday mornings at 7 a.m. I usually drive to the gym.
Yep.
Right. So I get in the car and it predicted, the AI in my phone says, "Are you headed here?" And I'm like, dang, phone, you know me better than me.
Yeah, it's like, apparently I am, actually.
Yeah. Or when you're typing an email, like another version of AI that we've all experienced, but we don't think of as AI because it's just inherent in the system, is when you're typing an email and it says, it gives you the predictive, if you write to whom, it's going to let you autofill with, "It may concern." Now, don't ever write an
generative
email like
AI.
That's kind of but that is generative AI. Like, is it going to be separate tools, or are we just going to see all of a sudden Gmail is going to have this humantic AI plugin, or it'll just be inherent, like you're sending email to Marki, she's a high drive, do you want it to sound like this? Like, I feel like we may experience AI not separate and apart from our tools, but it embedded inside the tools we already use. What do you think?
What you just said is more likely, and let me tell you why. If we were to go over to right now, last year, Google came out with Bard. It's no longer Bard, it's now Gemini. Right? Gemini uses extensions. So our calendar, our email, our Google Drive, if we give it access, these are all extensions. So we can go and read and pull in information from any of those tools. But then we got to also think about, they also have a text to image, a text to video. So we're going to see, I'm going to say probably 10 big tools, and these 10 tools we'll choose from, but they'll be all inclusive tools. If I looked at ChatGPT, they're doing away with their plugins because now they have over 3 million custom GPTs. So I can do text to photo, text to image, I can do audio input inside of this one platform. So I think that the platforms are going to become more robust, and then we'll pick which one of these platforms we're going to use that will have multiple features inside of the one platform.
That's interesting. Marki, just for time's sake, because I want to get at least 2 more questions in.
Can I ask one follow-up on AI before we move? Are we moving on from AI? Let me ask. So let's pretend someone's hearing this and they've decided, okay, I've been hearing about this AI stuff, but I just want to start to learn, right? I just want to take that first step in starting to get comfortable with AI and understanding AI and how to plug it into my business. Do you have a book, a podcast, an approach, a website, something that you would recommend for someone who's like, all right, fine, I heard people talking about it, but Marki said it and it made it through. What should I do? How should I start to get comfortable
Well,
with
I
this?
will say this on my podcast, Social Selling Made Simple. I've talked about it every single month for the past year, right? So Social Selling Made Simple.
Okay.
We'll put the link in the
Not a problem.
link in our
We'll
notes.
put the link in the
However,
chat.
do you know that right now YouTube drives 74% of the traffic to ChatGPT? So YouTube University has some of the greatest videos. I would not go with the most recent video. I would go back and start looking at videos that start coming out in the month of January 2023 so that you can kind of follow along what happened. And I follow just a couple of people that are very good at, because I'm a visual learner. So I'm always looking at people who show visual assets so that I can visually see it and then go and implement it. And take 15 minutes every single day to learn and create something new. But
Time
think
block it.
about content because I've done the math. We need to put out 1,066 words of content every single day, whether that's text, image, and or video, if you want to earn $100,000. And it's because you're going to differentiate yourself from your competitors. A lot of agents do not have their own content, and your recent trip to Tulum is not content unless you're doing relocation resort sales. I'm just serious, right?
I mean, I'm glad you took a
Yeah,
trip though, but
that's
that's
not
not
content. No, it's
business
not.
content.
So we need real
Yeah.
content that connects people, and I would like for it to be hyper local content in the communities that you serve, and be a solution.
Mm, mm. Good
Yes.
advice. Thank you. All right,
It's
now we can
kind
move
of
on,
related.
James. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Well, actually, we kind of, it's almost towards our last question, Keith. So why don't you wrap us up on that? Because you always answer this. You always ask this question. It's always something we want to give our audience. So
we always end every podcast with this because I'm a huge believer in tactics. And so if there was one thing, if there's an agent or a broker listening, if there's one thing that they could do, change, plug into their business today, or start the process today that would impact their business the most in 2024, what would that be?
Strategically reaching out to 8 people by 8 a.m. based on their Ford, their family, their occupation, their recreation, and their dreams, sliding into their DM to recognize what's important to them.
I love that. 8 people by 8 a.m. That is so simple. And
they just told you all their business in real time on social media.
Yeah, you could find out what's going on. You just check on them. 8 people by 8 a.m.
That
is
awesome.
Funny. Two successful people I know. I'm referring to you and another person. His name is Zach McReynolds. I was on a panel once, and I forget what the panel was, and he's just very blunt. That's what I love about him. They're like, so they're asking all these technical questions, and it's like, so Zach, what would you do every day to increase business? He goes, pick up the phone and call 10 people a day. That's all he said. And then they came back to him again and asked another question. He's like, pick up the phone and call 10 people a day. He's just literally like,
and I'm not a big phone talker
if you
anymore,
just called,
so I was the gossip girl, right? Always on the phone. I'm sliding into the DM because people respond faster to the DM today, right?
Sure.
So I'm catching people where they are, but it's not about me selling you a house. It's about, hey, happy birthday, or I see your kid just turned 16. Looks like you're having a sweet 16 party, whatever the case may be. But they just told you their business. They told you what's important to them.
Easy to reach out. Yeah. Well, I think the underlying point we're both making is if you don't start talking to people, you aren't going to succeed. So
but I love the simplicity, right? Like we all know we're supposed to talk to people, right? But 8 people before 8 a.m. Now the hardest part of your day is done. You can go play, mess around the rest of the day. So long as you do 8 people, talk to 8 people before 8 a.m., the rest of it's going to take care of itself. You could be at the baseball game at a 105 first pitch, or the happy hour at 3 p.m., whatever. But so long as you've talked to your 8 people before 8 a.m.,
you're good.
You're good. You're straight.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, love it.
Marki, thank you so much for being here. It's always a pleasure. Great content. I know everyone's going to enjoy listening to this. Some great takeaways. I learned some new stuff about some new AI sources as well. So they can check some of that stuff out. And I look forward to seeing you at some event soon because I'm sure we'll cross paths.
I look forward to seeing you on a dance floor soon.
Don't worry about
we are.
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am not. I'm ready.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marki.
All right. Thanks, Marki. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
It's our job to say out loud what everybody's only thinking to themselves. It's your job to subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode.